right through. You're holding your secrets for way too long. This can't keep going on. With every lie, they keep on hurting you, getting away with everything they do. This can't keep going on. No, we're gonna find them, and I'm gonna fight for you. They better start hiding. We'll be running with the lions, lions. We'll be running with the lions, lions. They can't run, they can't hide. We won't stop until they're down. We'll be running with the lions, lions.
Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday and happy Super Bowl Sunday. I hope everybody has been having a great day. For those of you who enjoy sports and watching the Super Bowl, or even for those of you like me who may just want to watch the Super Bowl for the fun snacks, I hope you are having a great day. I am your host, Dr. Kalpana Sundar, and this is Gloves Off. If you're new and have not seen this show before, basically, it is a show about people who are courageous, doing what they love in life, because there are too many of us out there who really just do what we think we're supposed to do. So this show is really about highlighting the people that are courageous, who have had the courage to make their life their own instead of going by society's rules. So each week I have a guest that has done exactly that. So for those of you who are returning and are consistent watchers of the show, welcome back. I'm happy to have you. This week, I'm so excited because I am going to be interviewing Brian Lee. So I met him at the University Club, and I have to say the University Club has been a real blessing in my life, because when I first moved to San Diego, I didn't really know a lot of people, and I was really in search of this community, and I didn't really know where to meet people. I mean, obviously I met people, but sometimes they weren't really the right people. I wanted to meet people that were movers and shakers, doing exciting, interesting things, but had personality, liked to have fun. And a friend of mine took me to the University Club, where I started to meet people that were very like-minded. And I went a couple of times as a guest, and then I thought, you know what? I think this is really the right space for me. So I went ahead and joined, and it has been a wonderful, wonderful experience. So I'm very excited to dive into this conversation with Brian. But before we get into all that, I really want to highlight our sponsor, Business Done Better. And I'm going to show a quick video of Brendan McCauley. We're actually going to be interviewing him and Rebecca Kalous. Rebecca is the founder of Business Done Better, and they have been instrumental in helping me with so many things, with several of my businesses, to help me get everything launched.
What you're best at, This is what you're best at, being fully present, creating breakthroughs, changing lives. But there's something eating at you. The more successful you become, the less present you feel. More clients should mean more impact, but instead it means racing between sessions, missing important details, rushing through follow-ups, and playing catch-up at midnight. And deep down, you're worried. Can you really grow a practice without sacrificing quality? And the answer is yes, but probably not the way that you think. Now, what if you could be fully present with your clients while the system handles everything else? Imagine every lead personally welcomed. Imagine every follow-up perfectly timed, every milestone celebrated, every detail remembered. And not through cold automation, but through intelligent systems that do truly feel personal because they're built by coaches for coaches. And this is what becomes possible when you have a system that works like a personal assistant. Imagine being able to grow 30, 40, maybe even 50 clients while giving each one the attention that they deserve. Now, our coaches report doubling their client load while actually improving client satisfaction, more 5-star reviews, better results, and zero quality sacrifice. Because the truth is, when you have the right system, growth doesn't mean sacrifice, it means impact. Now, if you're ready to grow without compromising, click below to see exactly how we're helping coaches just like you to scale while staying personal.
All right. Well, and that's businessdonebetter.com is the website. But what I love is that they're a company that was originally launched for coaches, but then they have expanded way beyond that. And that's really when I got involved with them because also I'm a coach as well. And really scaling your business as a coach is not an easy task, especially if you're not very tech savvy, which I'm not. So I'm really grateful that I have that team to help me with all the things that I'm not so great at. So let's get into our conversation today. So as I mentioned before, Brian Lee, I met him at the University Club. He's the general manager, but he actually grew up in Illinois and so more of a Midwest guy, and then came over here to California. He's been instrumental in launching and scaling several big companies, big restaurant chains that we've all heard of. I'm going to let him talk about all that, and I'm not going to talk about that. But the interesting thing is then he went to the University Club and started there. So I don't want to talk about it too much. I hate reading bios, but I want to get into the conversation with Brian. So let's get him on here and start our conversation. Well, hello, Brian. Welcome to Gloves Off. I'm so glad to have you on the show today.
Hi, Dr. Sundar. How are you? Thanks for having me on. Really looking forward to it.
Yes. So I didn't want to say too much because you've really worked for some very big name, hospitality corporations. So I wanted to let you talk about who you've worked for and basically what got you interested in this industry and why you're so passionate about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it really goes back to growing up in Chicago, like you said, suburbs of Chicago. My mom's side of the family is the Italian side, right? And everything was built around food and the Sunday supper at my grandparents. And, there was just so much emotion to it. And it was just more than a dining with family. It really became our traditions. And so I knew I wanted to be and do something like that. I found myself at the University of Illinois in agriculture, knowing I wanted to do hospitality. And so I kind of shifted to a more hospitality management school in Elgin. And I was an average cook in school, but we had a restaurant there and I was thriving in the restaurant, the front of the house side. And they suggested follow that. That's you're a people person, people pleaser. You've got the hospitality gene. So, follow that dream. Well, my sisters had relocated to Southern California in the late 90s. So, like many Chicago folks or people from outside of San Diego, a couple visits and you fall in love, right? So August of 99, I moved to San Diego. And what a great first job. I was running a little bistro in Del Mar called Sabika. And Dan and Susan, his wife at the time, had a great little Del Mar bistro that was so community driven. And they went to the racetrack together. We learned great wines with them. That was such a great introduction to North County, San Diego, and kind of the hospitality scene. But then I remember dining at a Fleming Steakhouse in La Jolla for the first time, and growing up in Chicago, like the old boys steakhouses, just the dark woods. And, it wasn't really what I saw when I went into Fleming's, which was just like a very diverse steakhouse and a little bit younger and very vibrant. And so I fell in love with it. And so I took a step back and I went back from managing to serving and really started to say, I want to grow this brand. And I became a corporate trainer for them and opened 7 Fleming's around the country. And if you can, treat every day like a new restaurant opening, you will be successful. Was one of my mottos there, where it was just such the passion and thrill. And I was just sold on that was the industry for me then. And Outback Steakhouse bought those brands, bought the Fleming's brand. And then they had also purchased the Roy's Hawaiian Fusion brand. And so I'd seen Roy's in San Diego and I was very intrigued by their culinary, this kind of Asian fusion. And Roy Yamaguchi was the celebrity chef, but yet like the most humble person in the world. And so I became a managing partner with the Roy's brand, which was really a neat, you invested money, your chef invested money. It was a 5-year buy-in. And it was such a great way to start to like own a brand and really say, this is mine. And I loved it. But, I just think with obviously the Outback buying, and I'm not saying they dummied it down, but, obviously when you want to scale restaurants, you got to be so consistent. And I saw that. But I think some of the culinary creativity left, and some of the freedom in the framework left. And so I met a local chef who had just come to San Diego named Brian Malarkey, and he'd opened Notion Air here, and then was helping me with an event at my Roy's in La Jolla, where I noticed him kind of in some heavy meetings after this event, and he actually was signing his agreement to start the fabric of social dining in San Diego, which was seersucker and herringbone, gosh, burlap and gingham and gabardine. What a blast it was, and to kind of watch Brian grow the brands. But I was really, herringbone was what attracted me. I became the GM of Herringbone in La Jolla, and it was, talk about creative and energy and incredible music and dining, and watching Brian's growth on Food Network and Top Chef, and to have someone like that to inspire you on the daily was pretty amazing, right? And so
Yeah.
he sold the brands to the Hakkasan Group, and I stayed. I kind of stayed with Hakkasan and grew Herringbone to Waikiki and Cabo and Santa Monica, Vegas, and it was, I think some of the best years, but yet some of the most challenging, obviously, to start to travel and have to balance that family dynamic. And I didn't have a child at the time, so it was able to happen. But once I had my daughter Penny, then it was like, I want to get home, and so that was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had a couple of questions for you about some of the things you said. I wanted to actually go back a little bit to what you were saying about your family.
Yeah.
And I love how a lot of times that something that really impacted us as children can really become a theme in our adult life and often in our careers. So I love that food was not just about eating, it was family tradition. And there is really a lot around food. I mean, even to this day, even if it's not about your family, it's how we socialize. We love experiencing new restaurants. Like last night I went to the opening of Rustic Root because there's this open one in Solana. Yeah. So that was nice. But it is a real part of our lives, and just the culinary experience is tasting flavors from all around the world. The fusions, I love fusion food, period. When we blend flavors. So I just wanted to comment on that. But how did your family feel about you leaving Illinois and moving to California?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was my sisters had gone, and so my dad was thinking about going. My mom actually had moved down to South Florida to Naples to help my grandparents who were aging, and she was remarried there and just started her next life. And so it was more like, leaving your friends and your hometown and the comfort zone. But they were championing the efforts. They knew, I think, you could bring that Midwest work ethic out to the West Coast and put in the grind and be successful. I think they started to see that with my sisters. And so, they supported it, but I think a lot of people thought I would never leave Chicago. I'm just, Chicago sports and the food scene, and, but that weather, you know what I mean? And everybody packing at some point, and it was the winter of '99, and I just couldn't do it again. And so, like I said, it's been great getting out here. And I agree with you, Dr. Sundar, in terms of like the diversity of our city here. It's such a melting pot, which then it's a reflection in the flavors of the city and the culture that we've got. I just love the diversity of San Diego and what it's become.
Yes, and it's really hard not to fall in love with it. When I first started coming out here, I mean, I really liked it, but every time I came back, there was something I discovered. And I have to say, even I've only lived here a little over a year, but I just feel like I discovered different parts of the city, and there's just so much to discover. I feel like you could live here for a decade and still be discovering things that you didn't know about, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah, the pockets of the city are just fantastic, right? To dine in Little Italy, and then to go over to Coronado and to do something in North Park, and obviously North County is just its own, from Carlsbad to Del Mar, and to get to the La Jolla coast and the Cove. I am with you. I think it's the greatest. And then to continue the venture up the coast, you know what I mean? And my sister's in San Clemente, and I just, so many friends and great folks up in LA, and all the thoughts out to them with the fires and everything. But nevertheless, it's been great to see the city come together. So But yeah, we're blessed. The state is great, and
Yes, yes. I think once you come out to the West Coast, it's a little hard to go back. I
for
mean, there
sure,
was a point where I thought I might go back to the East Coast, but I
yeah.
don't know that that's a possibility for me
I would
anymore.
have never traded growing up there. You know what I mean? Just the
Mhm.
values, morals, that
Mhm.
the work ethic stuff, that I think was just the greatest. And I still have just incredible friends back there. And,
Right.
it'll always be home for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. It's always nice to go back home and visit, but sometimes life
Yeah,
takes you in an absolute different direction.
that's right.
So, what would you say were the biggest challenges that you faced when you were expanding these restaurants?
Yeah, I think you're growing a brand, and it's the consistency, right? You maybe these folks have had great experiences in San Diego, and now you're trying to replicate these brands. I think going to like Hawaii with Herringbone, it was trying to sell this concept from San Diego, which you'd think it would transfer perfectly over to the islands where so many people go back and forth, but it was almost kind of like, oh, here's this big kind of corporate celebrity chef coming to our Waikiki area, and not resentment, but it wasn't as much of the aloha vibe that we thought that I knew from my Roy's life. And so, I think it was really getting into certain markets and showing what our brand was, and, hiring the right people for the brand, and
What
that to me was probably the biggest challenge, market to market.
what year did Roy's open in Hawaii?
I mean, Roy's originated in Hawaii in
That's what I
like
thought.
late '80s, but
Oh, okay.
Herringbone is where, I learned so much about that Roy's culture and the
Mhm.
Aloha culture, and it was just more a mainland concept. Going to Hawaii then, was much
Mhm.
different. An example, I think, we used a lot of our construction folks from California and Las Vegas to go over to build it versus utilizing local. I just think
Mhm.
we missed it by not saying, "Hey, we want to utilize all of your local folks." We hired local
That makes sense.
employees, but we didn't give them the dollars on the build out, right? Those were just interesting things to learn that none of us considered. Even a large company, I think, like Hakkasan, to say, "Hey," but that held it up, right? Your licensing and some of those pieces. So I think as you're expanding, gosh, I remember when Fleming's went to Chicago years ago, and now you're going into a steakhouse mecca, and you're kind of start to known as a chain, and heck of a time really getting initiated in the city and being downtown, and it didn't work. So I think like my point is like location's everything when you're scaling, and then can you hire hard, train harder, get those right folks to really buy into your brand. I've really learned to like not have emotion to the brand, but more just to the people. I think it's, for me,
Mhm.
Herringbone was like, I felt like it was my baby, even though it was really Brian and his partner Chris's baby. I was just help raising it, but it was hard to let go. You know what I mean? Of
That makes sense.
that stuff, right?
Well,
It
you
was,
get involved. I
yeah,
think you really get involved. You
you
get
do,
vested in the brand and the culture
yeah,
and the people and
yeah,
all of it. It's
yeah.
hard not to, really.
Yeah.
So,
And
and
but
then,
that's why I just say the people, Dr. Sunders, what's kept me in the industry. It's
yeah.
about the relationships I've made, and that's what really, has been the driver for me. It's just been such a great experience meeting incredible people.
Well, it's perfect if you're a people person, and it's perfect if you're a people pleaser, because
Yeah.
now we talk about being a people pleaser as a bad thing, but it's not necessarily.
Yeah.
There is really something to be said for the hospitality industry. And I have to be honest, I don't think the hospitality industry has been the same since COVID. I
No.
mean, a lot has changed. It's just, but I loved what you said about if you treat every day in your restaurant like it's your
Yeah.
opening day, you're going to do fine. And that's where I think people fall short. It's
Right.
always perfection on opening day, and maybe when maybe in your first year or whatnot. But I feel like many restaurants will rest on their rest on their laurels
Laurels.
after
Yeah.
they quote unquote made it.
That's right.
But it's the ones that keep delivering that top notch experience over and over again that
Yeah.
I feel really do succeed. I was at, where was it? So Urban Wood.
Yeah.
And I feel that I don't know how long they've been around, but it was
They're going in about 6 years now. Hmm.
okay. But I feel like for a reasonably, established restaurant, I felt every time I've been there, it is like they just opened. The
Yeah.
service is impeccable, the food, the presentation, all of it. And it really makes a difference.
Yeah, no, they've done such a great job, and like I said, I take the word emotion a lot. I just think going in there, it's just such a vibe, and
Mm.
just the smells, and you see the people, and again, not just one certain type of it's such a cool, I think a lot of the older folks are meshing with the younger people, and it really is a neat thing to see in the way they've designed those spaces. I'm just, obviously a little biased working for Brian and Chris for years, but what they've done there in anime and now Lecoq up in La Jolla, I just think it's so cool to have people like that in our city. What Richard Blaze has brought to the city, and it's really neat. I find myself constantly trying to dine out and support these local chefs and the local community. And it just, I don't think San Diego was ever known for that years ago. It was the beaches, and it was such a, great place. And obviously the military tie that San Diego has, that's what it was. And now I feel like it's becoming a dining destination, and the hospitality scene is just on fire. So it's great to be a part of it.
Yeah. So how did you then transition from this to the university club, and what created that transition? Because I feel like it's very different.
It is,
Actually, before I even get into that,
Yeah.
I'm going to take 2 steps back.
Yeah.
Describe maybe, or if you want to put it in your answer, just describe what the university club is. Because again, I think for those of us who are,
Sure.
those people who are watching that are not from San Diego, it sounds like it's a university and academic kind of club. So maybe a little history too would be great.
And there's so many university clubs like around the country too that, we love everything they're doing. It's not necessarily part of what our network is. We're part of the Invited network of clubs, formerly Club Corp, and 250 golf country clubs, and we're part of the City Club division. So there's 28 clubs like the University Club around the country, and we're on the 34th floor here of the Symphony Towers, and it's been here since 1989. It was always the premier business club of the city, and like you said, the movers and shakers that were all downtown working 5 days a week, whether real estate or legal, they were here having breakfast, and there was always such a buzz. I didn't spend a ton of time in my restaurant years up here. I would come up for some different wine events. Actually, when I was buying wine for Fleming Steakhouse, they had a member here that would do his portfolio tasting every year, that all the buyers would come up. I remember the first time, Dr. Sunder, I was coming and I was buying wine for Fleming's. My wife, now girlfriend at the time, was like, well, where are you going? And I said, well, I'm going to the university club for a wine event. And she's like, not dressed like that. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I think I just had like a button down flannel and some jeans, and maybe some Chuck Taylors or whatever. And, I'm a little casual actually for the club right now on screen. But she said, you got to throw a jacket on. You got to kind of dress it up. And I did. And I was happy she said that, because I came up here and I was like, oh, wow, I didn't know they had something like this in San Diego. My grandfather was part of members clubs in the city, and I used to go downtown with him, and he'd work for the Chicago Board of Trade and go to work and go to dinner and see that club. But it was kind of this old boys club, and it wasn't really a place I ever thought I'd work, and it wasn't really where the dining folks were, I think, hanging out a ton. Right. So coming to the wine event, though, I really enjoyed what I saw. So during the pandemic, when, there was no game plan, and I had kind of left Urban Wood at that time, and my friend Ashley had taken the food and beverage director job up here and said, hey, they need a general manager. I think you'd be perfect. And I was like, what are you doing up there, Ash? I just don't understand. And, I go, how do you do a private indoor members club? We're in a pandemic, and she's like, you just got to meet the team. You got to meet, the higher ups and see what it is. And so I went through the interview process, and it seemed really good. It's still like they said, hey, maybe a guy like you with your resume, we didn't look at that a few years ago, but now we realize we need to kind of flip what these clubs are going to be to try to come out of the pandemic. Because let's face it, are people going to be working downtown 5 days a week? What is going to happen? Will we go into a hybrid model forever? Like, we were just putting it all out there, and the company did well, and they issued credits for all the members who stayed firm, and I obviously took the job. And that first 90 days, Dr. Sundar, what a challenge. Kind of was going home every day, putting my head through the wall, and my wife was like, stop looking at the obligation and find the opportunity, and see it. And so that was it.
I can see why you married her. See, look at this. I love this. I love her attitude.
That was it. That was the push. And then we just showed grit, and I was blessed to be able to recruit a great team that some followed me from the restaurant world. And I'm emotional, to be honest, because to reflect now and to see where we're at, pretty amazing.
That
So,
is really
yeah,
that's wonderful when you can see that. And when you feel so vested and you feel emotions around it, then you know it's a really good fit.
for
And
sure.
I have to say the club is just very different. When people told me about it and I hadn't been, because actually the friend that invited me was I had come out here to visit California and she had invited me to meet at the University Club, but at the
Yeah.
time I was staying really far in North County up in San Marcos and I
Yeah.
didn't have a car. I was here to visit and I said, I can't meet you. But I was like, I don't even know what this place is,
Yeah.
I don't know. And then eventually I got down there and I thought, wow, this is really amazing because you could use it as a bar, a restaurant. They have events there. You can work there. You can create business events there. There's just ballroom. I mean, you have the huge ballroom that can be parties and
Oh,
other bigger events. And I just think it's so great. And it's just such I've never been a part of, I'm not a big country club
shoot.
person.
Same.
That's just not my jam.
Same.
So
Same.
I always have said I'm not part of the because in
Yeah.
Florida we have a lot of these country club, golf
Exactly.
clubs kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
That was never my vibe. I never liked any parts of that. But this is totally different, where I
Yeah.
feel like there's something for everybody. It doesn't feel like an all boys club. I feel it's, women are there, men are there, everybody's commingling, people are doing business, people are meeting up for pleasure.
Yeah.
I just love the whole experience there. It's been wonderful. And I really joined mostly for the business, more for
Right.
a business opportunity just to network. And that was what I was thinking. But on the contrary, it's really wound up being a place where I've met most of my friends. I was actually out with another member last night.
Yeah, well, you're nailing it. I mean, that's what it is. I'll often talk to new members and ask, are you signing up more for business or social? And some will kind of, I'm really here for business. I'm kind of launching something, and I'm really hoping to find some folks to help guide. And then I'll see those people finding great social. You know what I mean? They're looking for business, but end up finding those great friends. And then some people I'll ask, are you here? Again, and they're here for social, but they're themselves. They're in their own being their own individual person, and that's going to lead to business for them. And I always tell these new members, try the different stuff, go to some of these events that might be outside of your realm, and get comfortable getting uncomfortable a little bit. I think we've got 1,400 really great people in here, and that's our job, our team, to connect the folks, and really get them into the right avenues and the right buckets have you and right circles. But nevertheless, I think the ones that have it best are in a lot of circles, and I've done everything I can to try to eliminate the cliques within the club. I really think sometimes that can be a stigma and, not as welcoming. And we're really trying to, I think, this year in particular, really just open it up. I think we talk so much about, the exclusivity of the club, and this exclusive experience. But I just think it's important that we say it's an inclusive, exclusive experience. And that's what we are, because I think it's for everybody. And to your point, Dr. Sunder, I had the same impression of what it always was. And it's pretty cool to trailblaze and start to say, no, it's, this is a little bit different. It's a community of just really great people.
Yeah, yeah. And so many great people and so many new members joining all the time. I also love the fact that, there's so many different age groups, it's very diverse, I guess is the best way to say it. Because I didn't want to be part of any kind of club that just everybody looked the same, everybody
Right.
was the same. I love diversity in people. If you don't accept and embrace diversity, you're really missing out on a lot
No
in
doubt
life.
about it. No doubt about it. That's why I think, like I said, it just is a perfect reflection of what San Diego is. We are such a melting pot here. And I just think the club exemplifies it. And the company's done a good job. Invited tells these clubs, represent your city. We're not, it's like cookie cutter where it's a chain. Every club looks the same, feels the same, serves the same food. You're hypersensitive and local to your city and your community. And it's a beautiful thing.
So do you know how long it took me to figure out there was actually a symphony there?
Well, I remember obviously when we connected a little bit and got some good tickets and got you down there. But I know, University Club, Atop Symphony Towers. But
Right. But I didn't know there was really a symphony.
there is, yeah, it's just and here you go. When I started July 6th of 20, and then I came in on the 7th, the building closed for the second time for the pandemic. There's the symphony, and that's your big piece on the ground floor, and
Yeah.
it's dark. And then they're like, hey, we're not gonna open because we're gonna focus on this outdoor symphony, the Shell. And like I was like, I'm going to the Shell. I've been to so many great shows there, but then
Mhm.
you were starting to wonder, will it ever come back? And it was so amazing when Martha Gilmer, the CEO, said, we're not only coming back, but we're going to come back, stronger than ever. And, put so much great money into it. And it was 4.5 years. It really was since I started, they were working on it. And so I was in lockstep watching them and kind of pushing the envelope up here. And Martha was part of my board. And so, as they got closer to opening, we submitted an RFP to get the contract to run the bars and the donor lounges. And so we run the Symphony now for them. And it's just been so cool to see that come back and the club thriving. And then we decided just to open a little bakery too while we were at it, right next
Oh
to the
yeah,
Symphony.
I haven't been to that yet. I need to check that out.
Yeah, it's such a fun little scratch bakery. Adrian Mendoza, the baker, was with me with Malarkey's brands, and just a gift to the city. So it was cool to get him a concept and to bake for the club and to do great stuff for the Symphony and great for the building. And it's open to the public Monday through Friday from 7 to 3. So definitely check out Need. That's the best croissant in the city now.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So tell me, how do you balance all this? Because you're there often, early or late. I've seen you there at all kind of hours. And I'm not there really early, but usually late. I've seen you there a couple of times, later at night. So how are you balancing your home life, your personal life with the daughter? How old is she? 2?
Yeah, she's going to be 7 here in just
7. I don't know why I
weeks.
thought she was 2.
Turning
Sorry.
7. No, it feels, it's 2 to 7 went like this. And so, and then she's 7 going on 17, to be honest, Dr. Sundar. But it's
Right.
what a gift. Yeah, I've gotten better at being more present. The balancing act, putting my phone away when I'm home, because it's such a copycat. I mean, she's just absorbed all of that. So we're really trying just to have that balance at home after work, not waking right up to the phone in the morning, spending time with her. But it's in my blood. I do love the grind. I love being with the team here and the members. And again, my wife's been with me for a while now, married 13 years, together 18. So she knows what it was, and she was in the industry. They say cops stay cops, right? So she got what it was. But I do find a lot more balance running the club than I did in the restaurant world. It isn't like having to close at 2 a.m. and back at 8 a.m. for the brunch. And,
That's true.
there is a good balance, and I'm blessed to have this incredible team I have that, really helps me to drive.
So you can at least delegate and take some time that you need for your family. And that's really all about what it is. Sometimes we get stuck not delegating when we absolutely should delegate, but
Yeah,
I assume you've gotten better at that over the years.
I think so. I've just gotten better, like, in trusting, I think for me, I always, when I'm hiring, it's like, can I trust you? Are you committed? And the commitment I see pretty quick from people, but the trust, it comes with time. And so I've learned to really empower my people, 1, to succeed and 2, to fail, and then learning from the failures together. And that's where it's at, and that's, for me, I just love grooming new GMs and getting people. I had a great mentor, so I love giving that stuff back. But patience is a virtue with it. I always say never above, never below, just right side by side. And, that's why you see me late night. I love, rolling up the sleeves. I think that still is good. I've worked with leaders before. They're like, hey, I don't, you're running drinks and, you're bussing a table. That's not a good look. That's a sign that you guys are understaffed. And I said, you know what? Not at all. That's a sign that, we're out here and we show our face. And that's how I've always led, and I think that's how my team's followed.
I think it's great. I always say leadership is top down. So
Absolutely.
whatever attitude the leader has, the staff has as well. So if the staff, if the staff is not performing at your top level, often it's the leadership. It's not necessarily them. It's always top down. So whatever attitude the leader has, the staff has.
That's 100% right. And like you talked about, it never changed after the pandemic. Some of these great hospitality folks never came back to the industry. And a lot of them were those incredible support people. Your prep cooks, your dishwashers, your bussers and food runners, they started driving Uber. They just do full-time construction. And so it changed how you had to manage and lead. And then your hiring attitude and training skill, you can't do that from the office. You got to be out there and
Right.
manage in the moment with these folks. So that's been my style.
I was thinking you should have a bring your daughter to work day.
You should. No, she's been up to the club many
Okay.
times for some of the, Santa brunches, and she loves it. I mean, it's pretty cool to get them up. And we're talking about more of those things. The pre-pandemic, we did a lot of like movie nights for families, and
Hmm.
we want to start to do some more. We really are listening to the members, and we want to be conscious of that stuff. So I think again, there can be a lot more ways to program for family stuff too up here. And again, not just be this great business club, but have some great
Huh?
social elements, family elements, and
Love
as you
that.
know, some great keynote speakers that we get up here,
Hmm.
which I just love. I just love how we blend it all. You're kind of blurring the lines of home and office up here, is what I say.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. And that's really what makes it so special. And especially including that family element, I think would really be beautiful just because there are times that, it's nice to bring your family out to a place like that, especially if you have young kids. I think it's important to show even young kids how to dine in a nice
Yeah.
space and how to behave properly and proper etiquette. I remember my friends used to think I was crazy, but I've taken my children to nice places, but now they know how to behave when they go to
That's right.
nice
Well, no,
places.
it's the best way. I love working for the Roy's brand on that. They had ways to teach them how to use chopsticks, and Roy
Right.
was just so amazing, with, what. And I remember the first time I met Roy, I was like, I've never worked for a white tablecloth concept where there's so many kids, Roy. Is that just, I know that's the culture in Hawaii, but it was that intended? And he's like, geez, Brian, you're missing it. Like, those are our future leaders. That's the future managers of the restaurants. I
Mm.
want them to come here for their first date. I want them to come here for, their anniversaries. Like, it really became something to him to start them young, and in eating well, which I just was like, wow, I've never had heard that from, some sort of chef like that before. And that culture was great. And we do that with my daughter. I mean, we really try to eat really well. It's just, going through McDonald's isn't like it was in 1984 when I was coming up,
Right.
and so it's a different ball game. And really, we've been trying to get her to look at it, and she's funny reading her labels. And my wife's gluten free,
Oh, that's
dairy
good.
free, so it's like we kind of have to come align with that. So she'll be in the store saying, "Mom, it's not gluten free." I put it back, and you see other people shopping, going like, "Unbelievable!" But
That's
that's
so
great.
cute.
I think that's part of it.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. It's so funny. I have a funny chopstick story for you. So I
Yeah.
didn't learn how to use chopsticks till probably in my mid 20s. I remember I was probably in my surgical residency at the
Okay.
at the time, and gone to go eat sushi. And I have a friend who's half Chinese and half Cuban, and he insisted that I was going to use chopsticks to eat that sushi. And I thought, oh God, this is not going to be fun. But it was funny because about a week or so prior to that, one of my surgical attendings said to me, one of the best ways to improve your dexterity. I mean, most of us who go into surgery already really have good dexterity. That's why we know we want to go into surgery. Our hand-eye
Sure.
coordination is amazing. Our fingers work the way they're supposed to. We have really great manual dexterity. But he said, use chopsticks, especially for the microscopic ear surgery, he said.
Oh,
He said, you really should learn how to use chopsticks. So about a week or two later, my friend is insisting, and of course he doesn't know anything about this, but now I'm open to doing this because, okay, fine, now it's going to improve my surgical skills, and now I can actually do these surgeries. So that was what got me starting to use chopsticks. It had to be something more than just eating, apparently.
yeah, I knew I wasn't going to be doing surgeries when I couldn't play the game Operation for the life of me. I was just lighting up the red nose all the time. So
I
yeah,
was so good at that game, and I
yeah,
thought,
we knew
well,
each
maybe
other.
this is, I was so good at it. And I mean, not that it's anything close to what real surgery is like, but it
But
definitely piqued my interest that I may want to do that.
amazing. I love it. I love
I
it.
wonder if they still have that game. It'd be
I
fun
feel like it's still, I mean,
to
I don't
find
know
that
if it's, but I
version
see
and
it,
play with
I've
it.
seen it at a few garage sales, I think, in the last cruising
Yeah.
around, right? So
Yeah, what a fun game. I remember
yeah,
that from when I was a kid.
for
So,
sure.
yeah, so that's my chopstick story. So, what are actually, and you were also already talking about this. So, any other big things that you guys are rolling out for the members in 2025?
It's a big year. Yeah, we actually this summer we'll do kind of a refresh to the club. We're kind of calling it a revival of sorts, and happy to share a $2 million number that we're going to sink into it. And it's definitely going to show a difference. I think
Oh,
this
wow.
has the greatest views. This club's always, it's the second highest point of the city. But over time, we've been here since '89. We've had one remodel, and it's time for the next. And so we've really heard, and it's all about space allocation now, Dr. Sundar, how much co-working space versus regular dining space versus private dining space versus maybe just loungy, and so we've listened to the members and, really going to update the technology at the club and the AV
Nice.
piece. And then just the furniture is it's so ready. And so we're really getting some great furniture, expanding the bar. And I just am so excited. The renderings we're going to start sharing with the members and
Oh,
then putting them
fun.
down one of our halls. And so we'll, not have to close. It literally looks like it'll be a lot of part in our dust as we do some different areas
Oh,
and
okay.
move the members around the club a little to dine. So probably middle of June through probably Labor Day. And we'll throw a kind of a hard hat party before we start the work. And then after, a couple huge parties, to really unveil University Club, maybe 3.0. I guess we did the 2.0 on the last remodel, but we're excited, and the company's really excited. I can feel the buzz, and we've really become, I think, that model of what the city clubs are and what they want. So it was great to feel that investment back from the company to what we're doing.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to see what it's going to look like. Because honestly, I know there are definitely some things that could be updated, but I don't feel like it looks completely outdated.
No,
Not like some places do. Where was I?
no, listen,
Some
you're
places
so
look
right.
so
And I'm
outdated.
probably the biggest critic of it. And maybe some of
Right.
it, I remember some of the invited people like, this isn't urban wood, man. This isn't, what are you doing? We're not. But I said, look, I just really feel to get a little bit more modern with the space.
I agree.
Really, just it's ready. And so, we were the obvious choice for some of that capital. And that, I think, my members for being so committed these last 4.5 years with me, the company says be the obvious choice for the capital. And I couldn't have done it without my great team and then the members who stood behind during pandemic, and just the way we're growing the community now. It's great.
Yeah, no, I think it sounds like it's going to be wonderful. And what I've noticed is that the club seems to be attracting younger and younger members. So I feel that the remodel and a refresh will be really crucial for getting other members, younger members and
Yeah,
a different crowd that may not have considered it because maybe to them it looks a little old fashioned. I
that's
mean,
right.
I'm older, so I don't feel like it's that old fashioned, but they might.
Yeah, no, we do some big prospecting events for a lot of the emerging leaders in the city, and it's like I said, we have such a great real estate committee up here, and the legal representation, the tech world up here is so great. I mean, our nonprofit, I would put that up to anything in the city. The amount of nonprofits up here, and we're just working on trying to tell that story more. We have our in-house nonprofit, the Lamp of Learning, which has been with us since 1989, which is for first generation college students that we do. We do dollars for them for their for their college and their first generation. It's pretty amazing. I'm part of that board, and to listen to those interviews for these juniors, that they're trying to pitch, and they're able to get into Harvard and Princeton, but they don't realize there's so many grants and so many ways to do it. So big kudos, I think, to the Lamp of Learning, which has been such a great thing for me. Something different than my restaurant world, having something like that I get to participate in, and having a voice and the platform that the club's given me in the city, as part of the Business Journal's 500 list. And those were just things I wasn't, my restaurant world, I was awesome to go to some big food events and wine events, and those things were so rewarding still. But the club's given me a different purpose and a little bit
Yeah.
more like ROI have you, and I feel
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. I've been to one of the Lamp of Learning events, and I remember meeting some young folks who had received the scholarships and seeing them on the other end after they'd finished and completed starting
two of
work.
them recently have become members, and I think that seeing that come full
Fun.
circle, right, where they've gone off to UCLA or they went off to Washington, and now they're back and are becoming members and are doing things in the city that they were committed to doing, you know what I mean, 10 years ago. That's full circle. And the company talks about like building relationships, enriching lives, and sometimes those can be words, but those are those examples where it's it's living it. So I appreciate that stuff.
Yeah, so I don't truly know of any other place that I've ever seen that has this many different types of, events and different causes and just such an eclectic mix of people. And, it's just really great. And one of the big things that has been wonderful, I feel if you're moving from another city or new to California, I just feel like it was such a great place for me to just find my a foothold of people, because you move and, especially I moved here alone. So that's kind of scary. Honestly, I've never done that before, but I got really bold and just did it. But, there's that feeling because I moved around the holidays and I thought, oh God, I'm away from my family and all this stuff. But it's funny how you just find a new family. I mean, I've spent parts of the holidays with members of the club that have become my good friends. I'm actually going to Europe with a really good friend of mine who I met at the club. So it's just interesting how I could have never imagined that it would have turned out like this.
Yeah.
And that's when you just take a leap of faith. I think in the moment I said, oh, I think this will be good for my business. I'm going to do it. And this has been, business opportunity wise, yes, there have been some, but I don't think that's been as great as the friendship opportunities.
Yeah.
And I always say anyway, that sometimes when we're doing these networking events, I hate networking events actually, because everybody is there and they're like, okay, this is what I do. Let's collaborate. Let's meet up for coffee. And I'm like, oh, I just hate it. I don't even want to.
Yeah.
What I love about this place is I have a feeling that it may be a longer haul probably to get business opportunities. Maybe not for everybody, but for me, I just like to show up authentically. I like to meet people authentically. I like to know who they are. And I feel the opportunities will come. I think everybody has a different way of doing it. But if you do it the traditional network style, I really don't think you get anywhere in the end. You wind up meeting people. I've collected business cards. I've connected with people, 1 or 2 emails. I've never heard from them again.
Yep. No, it's you. I think you're nailing it. It sometimes can feel forced. We don't try to, like, I host a monthly breakfast with Brian, I really just talk about what's happening at the club, the upcoming month, that's 6 weeks, maybe talk about the Symphony or something at the bakery or, future projects, the remodel, right? But what's amazing is like before it, everyone's getting coffee, having breakfast, that they're starting this kind of conversation. Then after, literally yesterday we had it, and people were there till 6 o'clock last night. I mean, just broke off into 2. Some had like an early lunch. Some stayed for happy hour. And I remember when I was leaving at 6:30 and went down the elevator with people that, like, I literally came up the elevator with at 7:15 a.m. I was like, that is the day. And they're like, we're just seeing so much value now, where we know what's going on. We're meeting, we're meeting kind of some of those folks. And, some were saying we thought we were maybe going to try to do business. We've ended up just becoming really good friends. And so it's, I don't know. I love all of that. And it's really set for a good, kind of a good fabric for the club.
Absolutely. Well, and think about it. If you're going to do business with someone, I would rather do business with a friend of mine than do business with any kind of total stranger.
No doubt.
Hands down.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Right.
And before I joined the club, I'd been to some other networking events, and that was exactly what I felt. I said, oh, this is just literally the same thing I have been to in Florida, but it's in California. So I don't feel that it was any different. And it was just the whole thing, exchange business cards, blah, blah, blah. We're like BFFs for like a whole week, where we're all excited about getting to know each other. And then nothing. Crickets.
Yeah, crickets, exactly. No, it's I've seen it, you know what I mean? And then that's why I didn't find myself going, like, I was thinking back to what you're saying when you came and moved here. I was like, how did I do it coming from Chicago? But that's why I worked in restaurants, and the restaurants were my clubs, almost, where it was like, hey, this was my community. I was meeting all these people. I loved it, but it was also tough. I think the industry with what came with hospitality was also you're working late and then you're partying late, and that became this lifestyle where I was like, I don't want to just do this forever. I really needed to figure out how to have more of a balance, I think, to be successful in it. Cause I think that grind and just what came associated was it chewed people up a little bit, and I think the pandemic again made people reflect, do I want to go back to that lifestyle? And that's where I just said, I'm not, but to stay in hospitality and then now find club life, for me, it's been a match made in heaven. Yeah.
No, I think it's amazing. And I just wanted to see if you had any closing thoughts of that went by pretty quickly, but we still got a couple of minutes. But I didn't know if you had any closing thoughts or anything you wanted to share with us. Any
It's this was awesome to do. Just to reflect, I think, on the last 4.5 years, and to, start to look forward on
take you
what's
down memory lane from COVID
exactly.
to now.
It's just, and I do that at times, but I'm just very excited for the momentum right now. And it's just been, to get new members like yourself coming into the community that I think are, offering us such a fresh approach. And that's what I love. It's like when I hire new employees that have fresh eyes and saying, hey, have you ever thought about doing it this way? And that's what it's about. And so now I'm excited for, this next generation of member coming to the club, then continue to put my arms around all these tenured members. And it's when this mentorship stuff starts happening and my youngest members are meeting some of the oldest to talk about, what it's been and how we've evolved. And that's what it is for me. So yeah, I would welcome anyone up for a tour and see what we're doing up here. And, like I said, after this refresh comes September, the club will look very different. And I'll be excited to kind of scream it to the rooftops, what's happening even more, as I think that was my last piece, just to get the finished product, get this club really representing what these members are doing. And we're close. So.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I'm excited because I think that's really the best way. So any of you who are in San Diego, please take advantage of that opportunity. I know that's how I got started. Took a tour of the club, met with Brian, and just felt like it was the right fit for me. So I have his email there on the left side, well, right under me.
Yeah, shoot me an email. And again, we could have one of these city clubs in your city. The Metropolitan Club in Chicago is just phenomenal. Citrus Club in Florida, the Tower Club in Dallas. I mean, those are some of my favorite. Columbia Tower Club, Seattle. I mean, it is. And again, that's your network. So when you're traveling to do business, it's a little more impactful to meet that real estate or legal person at the top of the Sears Tower than it is the Starbucks on the bottom floor, and so
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that because that is huge. I've met other people at the club because, again, meeting at Starbucks just doesn't have that same vibe at all. And a lot of those people I have done business with or have become really good friends, and it really makes a difference. I have not had an opportunity to visit the other clubs, but as I travel more, I definitely plan on that. So I'm glad you mentioned that because that is another huge perk that we can all be taken advantage of.
Just to be able to travel and golf and see some of the country clubs and utilize some of the pool and the fitness and, the tennis elements, right? Everyone's playing pickleball now. So again, the network, nobody, I feel like, touches what Invited does in terms of having this great place to travel. And I think pre-pandemic, that's what everybody was doing. Pandemic came, everyone golfed, and did outdoor. Now I think people are really saying, hey, I'm not back to an office 5 days. I'm back 3. These other 2, I want to be up at the club, co-work, still have community, not be at home. And so that's the new evolution. And, we've, I think, located these urban city dwellers, we call them, and said, make this that second home for you, and it's been great. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time on Super Bowl Sunday to visit with us on Gloves Off. I guess we should call it Helmets Off or Helmet On.
There you go. Absolutely.
For today, it'll just be a different name of the show. But again, just thank you so much for being here, sharing all of your journey and what's exciting for the club. And like I said, folks, feel free to email Brian. And then Brian, of course, I'll see you around. I'm there a lot.
Yeah, this is really fun. I appreciate you, Dr. Sundar, and you have a great one.
I appreciate you too. Have a great day. Bye. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. It's always nice to meet people who are just so that enjoy what they do. I mean, there is such a different feeling when you meet somebody that just loves what they do and it doesn't feel like work versus somebody who goes to work and it feels like work. You can definitely tell the difference. So that's what I think I love about the club. Everybody there is doing something that they really, really enjoy. For those of you who are local, I'm actually doing a talk at the University Club, and it's going to be on February 18th. There's a QR code. It's called Honoring Connection, Reflect, Revive, Reimagine. And it's February 18th, 5:30. There's a QR code there for an Eventbrite link. So Any of you who are not members can use that link in order to book some tickets for the event. It's free to come. And any of you who are watching that are members, obviously you could just book it through the Invited app. So also, I wanted to mention that next week I'm interviewing Rebecca Kalous and Brendan McCauley. I said that earlier. They are one of our sponsors for 2025 and with Business Done Better. So I'm excited to have them on the show next week. So I think that's really it for today. And I hope you guys had a fabulous Sunday. Look forward to seeing you next week for another episode of Gloves Off.